A regular contributor to Toronto Compute, Brandi Jasmine, don't you just love that name? She is here to walk us through a couple of sites that you really should know about and to tell us ways that our kids can avoid other ones. Brandi, welcome.
Thank you for having me on.
It's very nice to meet you, and you were telling me before we went on the air that you actually have some experience with the National Enquirer yourself because you are a freelance writer, and you sort of discussed getting involved with them at one time.
Well, early on in my career as a freelancer, I wasn't really focusing so much on technology. I was doing, any kind of freelance work I could get. And as a freelancer, you send around publications to get what are called writer's guidelines.
Right.
And I was really stunned by how strident and stringent the guidelines actually are. They wanted between 2 to 3 confirmations of who you got the information, where you got it from, can we contact that person, will you sign an affidavit saying that everything is true and correct. And I was, everybody, you laugh about the National Enquirer, that, and again, I don't know what they do with their own internal staff people. I can't speak to that, but for freelancers, the bar is actually quite high. You'd be surprised.
They don't want any lawsuits on their hands.
I think that's basically where they're coming from,
yeah. Well, we're here to talk about the Internet, and I've got to say that iDirect is my server, because you guys you heard me talking on the radio one day about the fact that everybody's on the net, and on the this and that, and I just felt like such a Luddite, so you called and said, get on, and you're going to get on with iDirect, and I have. Thank you very much.
And you're welcome.
You are the person I guess I should be talking to about finding out safe places for computer sites for kids. Tell you, we've got this 8-year-old daughter, and you're going to meet her a little later on, but she's just now starting to surf, and she goes to Spice Girls and stuff. But what about the time where she goes Spice and the search and comes up on a porn site? How do we prevent this? What should we be watching for, Brandi?
Well, I think the first thing that we tell parents is that a lot of the technological solutions and a lot of the regulatory solutions that people are looking for just plain old-fashioned don't work. You can put a program that we call them a third-party filtering program like NetNanny or CyberSurf on your computer, but they may not catch everything because you've got to understand there are people out there on the internet whose job it is to put their material in front of your eyeballs, whether you want it or not, and those people will do anything they can to get around those. So they move their sites, they change the name, they'll put up a thing that says on the front of it, this nice safe little site, you click on it, you go there, you get redirected to another site. So our recommendation is to, especially with a child your age, take the computer, put it somewhere where it's right in a heavily trafficked area. You don't have to feel like you're intruding on your children's space or spying on them constantly, but you have an easy way to just walk by and say, hey, what are you doing? And so you can talk about things, and so that it's accessible to you, not in a basement somewhere where they can hide and, when they get to be 12 and 13 years old, try to get around your filters without you seeing it. It's ideal to do that. That one thing, probably more than anything else, would help a lot of parents, I think.
Oh, it's the same with anything, though, when you're parenting, whether it's watching television or even what they're reading or whatever. It is still up to us. We are still the final filter, aren't we?
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of parents are hoping for something to just put this is one more way to them. And what I say to parents is it's not that there's pornography out on the internet that's going to come out and grab your kids. There are pornographers out there in the world, and whether they're using the internet or some other tool, they're out there, they're looking for attention, and they'll get it anywhere they can. So you've got to think of the internet as a tool or a medium, but it's not the problem. The problem is somewhere else. And so and that problem can intrude upon your life whether or not you use the internet at all. And so your best line of defense is to have a really good line of communication between yourself and your children.
I've also heard of sites now that you get into. There are porn sites that people get into and you can't get out. And just what you were talking about, things that lead you on.
Yeah, that's one technique that's used, but that's something I really don't understand. All you have to do to get out is to close the browser and open it up again. It's not like the computer reaches out itself and grabs you by the neck and goes, you have to watch me.
Right.
So that, I think, and I don't understand why they do it, frankly, either, because like I said, it is so easy to get around. And if you can't, if you look at this screen here, a lot of people are used to looking on the back buttons. Another thing that you can do in both Netscape and Explorer, they have this go-to bar. So you can click on any other site within your history, this is also good for parents to know. If you want to see what your kids have been looking, just click on this bar, and you can see the last 20 or 30 sites they've seen. So
that's a whole kind of a gray area.
Well, you can turn it off too. That's also true. You can turn it off, but it is there for you if you want to look at it, and it's another way to navigate within the system. You're not stuck if they do that to you.
Okay, well, let's find what's a good search engine for a child.
There aren't really a lot of good search engines specifically for children. There are some sites that we've talked about. And a lot of these have what are called, links, libraries. They have chat boards of their own. This one is CanadianParents.com.
Okay.
There's another good one here. This one put together by Canadian Tire and I believe it's the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police.
Stay alert, stay safe.
That's right. They have a whole program that you might have seen some posters in the subways, for example, with these little rabbit characters on them.
Yeah.
And there's two sections, one for adult stuff, which tells you how to talk to your kids about things that they might find online, information about what you might find online and how to deal with it. You can order a booklet, I believe it's free, and discuss with other parents in the bulletin boards